Hello and welcome. I'm Jodi Carlton, creator of Spectrum Relationships and your host for Neurodiverse Relationship Q&A. I created this program for those of you who are in relationships that are neurodiverse. So maybe that's you that's on the spectrum, or maybe it's your partner, or maybe you're just not sure. But either way, join me every other week for a Q&A session. And be sure to subscribe or follow my channel for updates on all the programs and courses that I have, and to watch or listen to tips to help you in your relationship. So, what will we talk about today? Hey, you guys. Happy New Year. I don't think I've seen you guys since New Year's. Happy 2022 to everybody. All righty. Oh my gosh, you guys, I'm tired. You know why? Let me tell you why. I live in Georgia in the southern United States. And those of you who may not know, we had college football last night, and my Georgia Bulldogs, which I got my master's degree, my graduate degree at the University of Georgia, and my Georgia Bulldogs won the national championship last night. Woo! And so I was up until 12:30. The game didn't end until midnight, and it was really close. We beat Alabama. Anyway, I'm tired. If any of you guys are football fans, say hello in the comments. So anyway, I'm tired because I was up late last night. Wow, lots of people are hopping on here. Ashley, you're a UGA alum too. Woo, woo, yay. Go Dogs, right? So, okay. I have some pretty important announcements for you guys today. So stick around and we'll do our Q&A today. One of the most important announcements, though, I'm just going to go ahead and start and tell you right out of the gates. Today is going to be my last live Q&A with you. So I've been doing these bi-weekly live Q&As here. And I've been doing this for, a year or two. And they haven't always been here on YouTube. They used to be in my Facebook group. But my team and I have been talking about how to best use my time and how to best reach all of you guys. And we've noticed that most of you hop on and watch replays. And so what we're going to do, we're not eliminating the Q&A. We're just going to do it in a different way. And this is pretty exciting. So what I'm going to do is actually give you guys the opportunity to not only submit your questions to me that I will answer on a video cast. We're going to still broadcast a video cast at this time slot. And hopefully we're going to do it every week instead of every other week. But I'm going to invite you to actually get on a Zoom call with me. So if you're interested, I'm going to put a link here. Hold on. Any of you who are interested in getting on a Zoom call with me, now this won't be live. This will be recorded. So this is going to be more like a podcast, a video cast. Now your video won't be recorded. This will be an audio Zoom. So you can schedule a time to meet with me and we'll talk about your situation for about 15 minutes or so. And then we will feature that conversation in a video cast. And I may have one or two calls per video cast. And so I may do topic-based video casts, or I may just talk about that particular situation on my Q&A. Or not Q&A. I may talk about that particular topic for most of the Q&A. But then you can still submit your questions through your emails. A lot of you are asking me questions in the new community, which if you guys don't know about the community, hop on. We've got people joining. I don't know how many members we have in there yet as of today, but we've got new people joining every day. And the new community, by the way, is an off Facebook community. And so we still have our Facebook group, and we've got close to 2,000 people in there. And it is now, as of January 1st, it is a member-to-member group. So it's a member support group. We're still moderating it. My team and I are moderating it. And I may pop in there occasionally because I can't help myself. My team told me, you're not going to stay away, are you? And I'm like, well, I'm going to try, but it's hard to be in all places. But the thing is, Facebook was really censoring us, and we couldn't talk to you. I would try to post, I'd do videos in there, and Facebook showed it to like 10 of you. And it was frustrating. So we created this new community, and you can tag me, and I can talk to you. I can post and you can see it. I can respond. And anyway, it's great. People are jumping in. We're having great conversation. All you need to do is go to the main website, which is spectrum-relationships.com. And there's a little tab right there at the top that says community. But anyway, back to the video cast and the podcast, which I'm super excited about. Somebody says, go Niners. If you're interested, if you would like to be on a video cast. Now, this is not a free coaching call, you guys, where you just get to hop on a 15-minute call with me. Don't book on this link right here that's scrolling at the bottom. Don't book in on that unless you are agreeing to be on the video cast. And it's going to be on video here on YouTube, and also a podcast that we're launching. So those of you who are podcasters and listen on your way to work, or when you're doing your housework or whatever, we're going to have that for you in 2022 as well. And so if you'd like to have, to be featured, then let's do it. All right. I'm going to turn that off. And that link will be in the description of this video and in all sorts of other places on our website and in the community. So let me turn that off so it's not annoying for you guys. Okay. What questions do you guys have? Start dropping your questions for me. And I do have a couple that were in my community. So what questions do you have for me? And something else I wanted to remind you of, because I've actually had quite a few people asking for consultations and asking me if I'm scheduling and booking consultations right now. And I am. And so here's the website, by the way. Yes, you can book 3 types of consultations with me right now. One is just a basic consultation, where if you just need some help figuring out where to go from here, what to do, if it's just you and your partner isn't wanting to participate, you can book that consultation with me. Or if you're wanting an autism assessment, a neurodiversity autism assessment, we can do that, which I have some testing that we'll do. Or you can book a comprehensive relationship consultation, which includes the autism assessment. And when I do the comprehensive, you guys, it's for both of you. And I test both of you. This is a really cool thing for couples, because and I've actually, if you've already had this consultation, I've really actually upgraded it since I first started doing these. I test both of you. So we do neurodiversity screening, executive functioning, sensory processing, a kind of a pretty extensive personality type assessment, and then a relationship, a marriage and relationship assessment to look at the relationship quality. And that looks at attachment styles, conflict styles, spirituality, partner, dominance, stress. And then we look at all of that together, and it's really, really cool for partners to see how you score. And you may be thinking, well, I don't think I'm autistic. Why do I need to take the assessment? Well, it's super helpful, because we get to look at how you're different, not just how somebody scores, one person, because you guys are a couple. You're interacting with each other. You're living with each other. You have a relationship with each other. So we look at how you score, how your partner scores, and look at how each of your differences, what each of you are bringing to that relationship. And if you're in my communication program, Crack the Communication Code, you know that stage 1 of communication is what you bring to it. And so what we bring to it is who we are, the brains we have, the personalities we have, the executive functioning we have, which is how our memory works, our organization skills, all of that stuff. So anyway, if you're interested, you can book in one of those. Just go on there and you can have direct access to my calendar and all my availability. It's just right there for you. Okay, let me go back to the comments. All right, you guys are kind of quiet today. Let me make sure I can see everybody's comments. Hold on a second, you guys. All right. I'm gonna need to mute this in a second because it's probably gonna yell at me. This is the other reason why we're going to a video cast, because I've been having some tech issues with the live streams, and I don't want to keep having that issue with you guys. There we go. Okay. Let me make sure I can see everybody. There we go. Okay. Yeah. Claire said hi. Okay. I can see you guys. Hi, Rianne. Good to see you. Okay. All right. So while I'm waiting on you guys to ask me questions or whatever you have to tell me today, we had a member in our community. He actually had a very interesting question, and I thought it was very applicable, that some of you are going to be able to relate to. And so he said that, I'm not going to read the whole thing because it's kind of long, but basically he's saying that when he goes to bed at night, it's like his brain just resets. So it's like he goes to sleep, and when he wakes up in the morning, it's like all the things that he had, the conversations he'd had the day before, it's wiped clean. He said, if my wife and I had discussions, it's gone. The studying I'd done, it's gone. I just can't remember anything I agreed to or anything I did. And it's like, it's yesterday is just gone. And he said, what are some suggestions on how to retain this? So this is someone who is autistic. So he's neurodiverse. And this is an executive functioning issue. So this is an executive dysfunction. This has to do with memory. And so I wanted to talk a little bit about this here, because those of you who struggle with even ADHD, those of you with ADHD may struggle with this as well. Memory is broken down into pieces. So first we have to decode, which means translate what's actually happening in a moment. So translate a conversation or what we're reading, what he's studying. Our brain has to interpret the meaning of what's happening in that moment first and foremost. And if that interpretation is a little confusing or vague, if we're not real sure about a conversation, if we're not real clear on it, then it's much harder for our brain to store that as a memory. So getting really clear, getting clarity about, so for example, he mentioned studying. If we're studying something or trying to remember something we're reading, if we're not real clear, the chances of us remembering it the next day are much smaller. It's the same for our conversations. So if we're having a conversation with our partner and we're not real clear about what our partner's saying, or our family member or our friend or anybody, the chances of us remembering that conversation tomorrow are less, because we're not translating it very well. We're not clear on it. So our brain doesn't know what to store. It's like our brain doesn't have it doesn't know what to store. Because so first we decode. That's decoding. It's like, do y'all remember that movie, the Christmas Story? It was, he got his little decoder ring, and it's like a secret code. It's like your brain translates. So then our brain encodes, which means it stores. It stores it. It's like creating a file to put in your storage banks in your memory. And so there are a few other things that need to happen to store effectively. So we need to be attending to something to store it well. So if we're distracted, that's going to affect how solid of a memory something is. So we might have a vague memory of it, but not a really solid memory of it if we're distracted, or there are just a lot of things that can affect how solid that memory is. Now, see, I'm drawing a blank right now. So, oh yeah, so distractions, not paying attention, if we're interrupted in the middle of a conversation, so if it's disjointed, if that conversation has a lot of interruptions, or if there's a lot of sounds or noises or even um, sensory assault in the middle of a conversation, those types of things will cause what's called interference. So it interferes with the memory, and then it won't store it as well. It won't be as solid of a memory that's being stored. And so all of these things affect what the next stage is. So the memory is being stored. Then what this guy's saying, he's like, I can't remember things the next day. Retrieving is like opening the file back up. Now, how many of you have stored a file on your computer before and then you can't remember where you where you saved it? You can't remember where you saved it on your computer. What folder was it in? What drive was it on? So that's kind of we have to be able to retrieve memories. And so sometimes there are things that can interfere with our ability to retrieve a memory too. And this, I'm not going to get into the neurology of that because there's a lot of neurological things, but sometimes retrieval has to do with our current state of mind. So if this is why sometimes when you leave a room to go do something and you get in that, like let's say if I were to leave the room to go get a pen, and then I get into that room and I forget why I'm in there. I'm like, I came in here for something. This happens to me all the time, you guys, actually. And I can't remember why did I come in here? But then if I go back to the room I was in, then I'm like, oh, I went to get a pen. It's because the original reason I got up to go get that pen, I'm prompted. It jars my memory because I probably needed a pen to write something. So those conversations that he's having trouble remembering, unless something prompts him to remember, so there's like a cue to prompt him, he may struggle to retrieve the memory. So he's asking me, what are some solutions? What are some strategies? What if you have these executive dysfunctions? So like if memory is a problem, I recommend reinforcing the memory in a variety of ways. So, for example, if you're having a conversation that's written like a text exchange with your partner, I recommend that you say it out loud to yourself. If it's something you want to remember, say it out loud because your brain actually processes what you read and what you say with your mouth and what you're actually hear in three different places in your brain. So if you read it and you see it with your eyes, and this is also a verbal conversation, it works this way too. So if you've had a conversation that's verbal, then if you're hearing it from your partner and then you say it out loud to your partner, it's being spoken. Your ears are hearing your partner's words and your own words. Your brain's also processing what you have to say, which is a totally different thing. It's a totally different process in the brain to speak and to receive speech. And if you write it down, so like if you keep a little journal, I had a client that he was having trouble like this with his memory. And I recommended that he keep a journal beside his bed. And before he went to sleep every night, he jot down, he just write down some of the most notable events from the day, the things that he wanted to make sure he remembered. So if he'd had important conversations, if there were important events or just notable things, just jot them down. Not doesn't have to write paragraphs, just bullet points. And then in the morning, first thing he did was review, just opened it up and looked at it. And so, these types of memory issues also happen sometimes with trauma because it can be a depersonalization type of thing that the brain kind of shuts things out. Not always a trauma thing, but that's a type of strategy. Try to reinforce and rehearse information. Rehearsal is when we repeat information so that the more our brain is exposed to it, the more likely we are to remember it, and the easier it is to retrieve. Okay. There's a little lesson on memory, you guys. Before I started specializing in autism, I worked with people who had brain injuries, whether it was a traumatic blow to the head or strokes or brain tumors. And so memory was a thing that I worked with a whole lot. Okay, anybody? Let's. Hi, Rian. You said. Let me scroll. Oh, you guys were chatty. Let me scroll back here. So let's see. Hi, Sarah. Good to see you. Clara's saying a lot of executive functioning issues. Rian says, interesting. I don't have memory issues like that, but I use notes to help me with things that I need to do around the house and shopping. Yeah. So notes are, this is why we, note takers, a lot of times, this is why we use notes, just to help jog our memory, Hi, Pete. Good to see you. From the UK. Rand's in the UK too. See, it's safe for you guys over there. Okay, let me scroll back to Allison. Allison said, well, things look dramatically different with someone diagnosed as an adult, age 47. It seems he's been masking so long that I get confused. Okay, Allison, I think your post, no, it wasn't actually your post. Somebody on the Facebook group actually was talking about masking a few weeks ago, and the post actually popped back up in the group, and I was going to talk about that today. So it's timely that you brought that up. So let's talk about masking. Hi, Kevin. Good to see you. Let's talk about masking. This post in the Facebook group is somebody saying, what's the difference between neurotypical masking and neurodiverse masking or autistic masking? And Allison, you're saying it seems that he's been masking for so long that you get confused. And so I want to talk a little bit about what this is, because it gets such a bad rap. People think of masking as this really, this oh my gosh, this inauthentic thing that autistic folks do to pretend to be something they're not. And it's not about that at all. It's about masking. Well, actually, I want to read somebody in the group who is autistic. Actually described it really well. And I think it's better to come straight out of the mouth of someone who's autistic than for me to explain it even. And he says, it's forcing yourself to look people in the eye, making sure to look away exactly 15% of the time. It's practicing your greeting smile in the mirror, so it's just right and doesn't look creepy. It's double checking everything you say before you say it. It's making sure to use hand gestures at least half the time and modulating the pitch of your voice. It's like everything is an act and every interaction is a job. It's just a step beyond the adjustment you're talking about. He's interacting with someone else there. It's like your life is a movie and you're the main actor in it, always working on your lines and manners. It takes practice and creativity. Now, the thing is, to someone who's neurotypical, this sounds like an act, and it is. But the reason our autistic folks do this is in order to interact and socialize, because the natural rhythms of social interactions don't come naturally. So that when I say the natural rhythms, what comes naturally to those of us who are neurodiverse, just it's not a natural thing for my folks who are autistic. And so it's like a learned process. And so masking is the process of literally breaking social interactions into pieces and parts. And okay, here I am wearing my mask of who am I supposed to be in this moment? How do I react? What do I say? Where do I look? How long do I look there? When do I pause? How do I pause? What what tone do I use in my voice? It's not inherently developed. And so it's something that folks on the spectrum um, have to work really hard to do. And I've talked to so many of you about who are on the spectrum um, about the masking that you do, and it's just exhausting, and it's not in any way an intentional way to deceive. It's not at all. It's a way tr- to to fit in, to or not even just well to fit in, but also just to be in society. So, and it's not something that is ever going to stop happening. So, it's just important for those of us who are neurotypical to recognize that this is a strategic coping mechanism for our autistic partners and family members. And a lot of you, if you have a spouse who's autistic and you may have children who are autistic, your children are going to mask. And it is an important coping skill for them to learn how to do. So it's really important to get your head wrapped around the idea that masking is not bad. Masking is not a bad word. It's not a bad thing. My daughter, as you guys, I talk about her all the time. She's almost 19. She and I were having a conversation about masking not too long ago. And she actually did this really cool video when she was in middle school. Has been an advocate of autism her whole life. She's known she was autistic since she was 5. She's done projects at school. She won an essay award for her entire school when she was in 9th grade. But she did this video on YouTube about inside face and outside face. And she was in 6th grade or 7th grade. And so she was basically talking to other kids her age about this skill that she learned, how when she went to school and it was a test day, and she struggles with emotional regulation. She still does. She's a freshman in college, and she still struggles not to cry if she gets frustrated, or anxious in the middle of a test. And she's an honor student. She's a really good student, but she still struggles not to cry. And so she had taught herself this skill, um, to use her outside face when she looked down on the test and saw these really hard questions. She taught herself to use her outside face, which is the more socially the appropriate face than to melt down and start crying and to fall apart in the middle of class. And so that is a form of masking. Now, that's not interacting because nobody's really looking at her, but it is a form of masking. And so, but she's also learned how to do that in when she interacts with people too. What are your thoughts? I've got some autistic folks here. Let's see. Let me read what you guys are saying. Kevin says, I always used to look at people's mouths when I had a conversation, and I never understood why until I was diagnosed ASD, and then I could research eye contact and how to do it. Right. Yeah. And Claire says, yes. And it's exhausting. It's like resolving complex math problems. Yeah. And see, that just math is exhausting for me. Kevin says, I agree, Clara. It takes a lot of energy because we have to actively think. Kevin, we had this conversation at the dinner table in my house just a couple nights ago. And so my son, who's 15, is not autistic, but he is neurodiverse in that he has auditory processing difficulties and sensory processing difficulties. He had epilepsy when he was younger, so lots of neurological differences, but not autistic. And he asked me, he said, "Mom, where do you look when you're looking at me or at somebody?" And I was just telling him I kind of bounce back and forth between somebody's eyes, and it's something I do completely subconsciously. I'm not aware of it. And I make a lot of eye contact as a coach and as a therapist when I was still in the clinical setting in my counseling practice that I had for years and years, decades. I made a lot of eye contact and just wasn't even aware of what I was doing. And my daughter piped up and she said she usually looks either between the eyes or around the eyes. And she reminded me that early on, before I really became more aware of of autism and more understood it more, that I used to tell her to look at me. And I remember that. I remember when she was really younger, I would say, look at me, look at me, look at me. And she did. But she would look at me and I remember she would be like, and she laughed. We both laughed. She said, Mom, I'd look at you, but I would not hear a word you were saying. And I realized eventually, as her mom, I realized she's not hearing me. And so I stopped asking her to look at me years ago because I realized that the conversation was completely pointless if I required her to look at me. And so that's important for you guys with your spouses and your boyfriends and your girlfriends and your partners, because if you want them and you think, well, this doesn't feel like a connection if you're not looking at me. Well, the thing is, if you want your autistic person to look at you, then you're pretty much guaranteed not to have a connection if they're doing it out of obligation, because that's intense and difficult and hard, and they're not gonna be able to concentrate on what you're saying. Hi, Nathan. Good to see you. Nathan says kids are watching Pokemon. Welcome to fatherhood, Nathan. Oh, goodness. Yeah, so, anybody else have some thoughts about this eye contact thing or masking in general? That's some good stuff. Let me look over here and see what other questions I have while I'm waiting on you guys. Because the next thing I'm going to move on to is codependency, because that's something else that's come up a lot. Oh, Nathan said we had a fight because her dad said she shouldn't have had children with me. Ouch. That's pretty painful. So first of all, we got boundary problems here. And so her dad said either to her or to you, or at least there is an awareness there that dad's opinion is that his daughter shouldn't have had children with you. So what do we do, you guys, when this is tough, when we have in-laws getting involved in our partner relationships, and it can really cause problems, can't it? This is boundaries, because our parents really don't have any business making comments like this, but they do. Parents do, friends do. People like to have an opinion about our lives when it's really that's not their place. I'm sure it was hurtful for you, Nathan. It's not his place to make that statement. And this is such a common issue for couples when somebody's parent is too involved in weighing in. And I was just having this conversation with, I'm trying to see my memory, you guys. I'm trying to remember who it was, if it was a client or who it was. I was having a conversation with somebody this week. And if it was you and you're here, I'm sorry, because I'm trying to remember who it was. But we were oh, I know. It was one of my clients. Yes. Yes. And he is actually single, autistic, dating, And his mother has a lot of opinions about his life and his dating life, and weighing in on who he should date, how long he should give a girl a chance, and so we were talking about those boundaries and how important it is to say, hey, my choice, my life. And as a matter of fact, I just did a TikTok video because this came up in a coaching call with him and a coaching call with another client who was telling me that she has a list of people that she calls before she makes a decision about things because she's feels paralyzed to make decisions of her own, because ever since childhood, the people in her life have pretty much given her the impression that she's not capable of her own decisions. They've told her what to do and really disregarded and discounted her own thoughts and opinions. And this is a woman who's in her 40s, you guys. And she's finally starting to really take charge of her own life and take her own, value and worth. And she said, I'm realizing that, I can make my own choices and my own decisions. And it's hard sometimes to put those boundaries there to people who think they get to choose for us, who get to tell us what to do. And so I was talking to her about it, and I was talking to my other client and saying, because he's dating, and I said, with mom weighing in on all of his decisions, it's important to look ahead to the future. Will, if mom wants to, if his mom wants to have an opinion about who he dates and how long he should give a girl a chance before saying he doesn't think it's going to work, those types of things, then is she going to have an opinion about children and how to parent them and when they should be had and where they should go to school? And I mean, just all these things that is really none of their business. So we have to get good at telling people, this is my life, my choices, my life. If you don't follow me on TikTok, I'm neurodiverse. I don't know. It's in the description of this video, you guys. Neurodiverse relationship coach, something like that. I don't know. And go watch that video because I talked about my life, my choice. Let's see what you guys are saying. Rianne says, masking does tire me out. I have to do eye contact as I'm also deaf, so that I'm double exhausted at the end of the day. Guess that's why my other tasks of the day gets delayed. Yeah, so you really do. On the one hand, being deaf means less sensory assault, so you don't have that sense coming at you. But at the same time, you've got to also make the eye contact to get more information, because the eyes give information. And so you're having to make that eye contact. I can see how that's exhausting for you. And Claire is saying toxic comment from the in-law. I agree. And Claire is saying also a lot of autistic, undiagnosed parents also crossing boundaries and making inappropriate comments. Yes, this is true, because autism is absolutely hereditary, and we see it in the family tree. And so if those of you are here because you think somebody has autism, it may be you, maybe your partner, but it is important if somebody is making boundary comments that feel now, not all comments from in-laws are because of autism. Not all boundary violations are because of autism. Some people violate boundaries for all sorts of other reasons, but that can be that could be a reason, a misunderstanding of what's okay and what's not okay. Where, what's appropriate for me to say and what's not. And that's a very good point, Clara. So Allison saying, how do you balance the needs of your partner with your own? His needs seem more intense, but eventually I get resentful if I prioritize his needs over mine. Allison, it's like I almost paid you to be here, which I didn't, because that question just led right into my codependency that I wanted to lead into next. So you're just leading this whole thing. Okay. So what you're talking about there, you said his needs seem more intense, but eventually I get resentful if I prioritize his needs over mine. That is the song of the codependent, right? there. So, what is codependency? Somebody asked that in my community because I'm talking about it a lot lately. Codependency, it was born in this word came out of the alcohol community, the alcoholism community. And so a lot of people hear it and they're like, that's not me. We're not alcoholics, but no. Codependency means when two people, well, you can be a codependent, but that means you've got two people in a relationship. You've got a codependent, someone who is basically, and it's a form of addiction. It's an addiction to taking care of the needs of others ahead of your own, which one of the outcomes of that is the resentment that you're talking about, Allison. And the co aspect of that, co meaning two, you've got a partner, is that someone's willing to receive, someone's willing to be taken care of. And so you've got a giver and a receiver. And so codependency, first of all, is born usually. So people who are codependent givers, it's born in our childhood when we have a caregiver or an authority figure or the important people in our life who are supposed to be taking care of us and making sure that our needs are being met and that we're taught that we're valid and important human beings. These people don't do a very good job of that for whatever reason, and we're taught that we're supposed to put others ahead of ourselves. We're taught that we don't matter as much, and we're taught to make sure everybody else, or at least this particular person, whoever it is, or people, come ahead of us. And sometimes it's flat out abuse, but sometimes it's a lot more subtle. It can be very subtle in the form of just minimizing our requests and making fun of our dreams or just not validating who we are as human beings. And so, and I say we because I identify as a codependent, and I call myself a recovering codependent because I'm aware of it now and I'm healing. But we end up as adults seeking out, without even realizing it, relationships with people who we see that we take care of others. We end up matching and pairing up with people who we feel we can take care of them. And the thing is that we see our value. I want you to listen to this statement. Those of us who are codependent, we associate our value with who we are to someone, what we can do for them, the needs we can meet for them. We don't associate our value with just who we are, just being this amazing, incredible human being that we are. Our value is attached to what we provide, the love we give, the care that we give. And so we tend to take care of others' needs at our own expense. Now, we can be kind and compassionate and caring people. And I've had people say, "Where's the line there? Can we not be kind and caring and selfless?" Yeah, you can. The line is when it's at our expense. And when our own when we end up being harmed in some way, psychologically, emotionally, physically, um, the way we want to live our own lives, when we minimize ourselves, when we minimize ourselves in order to take care of somebody else, that's codependency. So, how do you balance? You said, how do you balance the needs of your partner with your own? And you said his needs seem to be more intense, and you're prioritizing his needs over yours. Why? You're saying his needs are more intense, but why are his needs more important than yours? They're not. Nobody's needs in a partnership are more important than the others. And each of you are adults. And I have always told every client I've ever had, even when I was working with severely mentally ill individuals, early in my career, I worked with people who had significant impairments from things like schizophrenia, severe bipolar. I worked in traumatic and acquired brain injury. I've always told my clients that your impairment is no excuse. You cannot. And autism, I'm not calling autism an impairment. It's a difference. Codependency is a difference. We all have differences. I'm short. I can't use it as an excuse. I can't see. I can't use when I can, but not well. I can't use it as an excuse. We're adults. Your partner is an adult, and it's not your job to prioritize him over you. It's his job to make sure his needs are met. He can make requests of you, and you can choose to honor certain requests and not honor others. And you can make requests of him, and he can choose to honor some of them and not others. But nobody's needs are more important than anybody else's. And any of you who are prioritizing your partner over yourself, you are inadvertently, without meaning to, contributing to the dynamic, the dysfunctional dynamic. And any of you who are gladly accepting that being a priority, you're gladly accepting your partner's prioritizing you over her or himself, then you are also contributing to the dynamic. Because nobody gets to demand that I'm more important. All right, I'll get off my soapbox there. Okay, Allison's actually giving an example. She says, he can't sleep with multiple fans on. I hate air blowing on me, yet every night we're together, we have to have fans on. We have to have fans, his house or mine. Okay, so this is a really good example. So he gets to have his fans. You don't have to have. This is you sleep where the fans are. I've actually had this exact scenario, so I can relate. You sleep with the fans on him. You come up with, he can't require you to have those fans on you, but you also don't require him to have them off. The fans for him are probably a sensory thing. He needs them, but it's for you too. And you need your sleep as much as he needs his. So this also could be a situation where, if you know my Battle Buster system, we look at the 2 or 10, and sleep is a 10. 2 or 10, you guys, if you don't know what I'm talking about, it's a scale where we rate how important things are to us. And we look at how important is this to me and how much is it impacting my life. So you both look at, how important is it to me that I do or do not have a fan on me? And you each get to evaluate that where it is. And then you look at how important is it impacting my life. So sleep is a 10. It's a deal breaker. We have to have sleep to survive. It's important as food, water, and clothing. So if having a fan blow on you or not having a fan blow on you is going to prevent you from sleeping, it's important. So this may be the kind of thing where you come together and you snuggle and you do what other kind of activities you want to do. And then somebody goes and sleeps in another room most of the night. And depending on whose house it is, maybe depends on who goes and sleeps in the other room. I was I can understand why people have separate bedrooms for issues like this. And it may be that we love the idea of snuggling together and sleeping together. And in concept, it sounds great. But in reality, what's really, more important, getting our sleep, not having that fan on you, or sleeping in a separate bedroom? So Those are the types of things. Your need to not have that fan on you is just as important as his need to have it on. But then you look at, okay, how important then is my need to sleep in the same room? Because neither one of you wins, but your need is important. It's very important. Hi, Charlene. Good to see you, my friend. Okay, you said, okay, wait, let me go back to Allison before I move on. You said, so using the fan example, is this a relationship deal killer? I hate the fan. No, 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 no. Not a relationship deal killer, but you want to look at how, what solutions can you have? Because sleeping in the same room, now, if there's, it sounds like you go to separate houses, um, his house or mine. So if for some reason you guys absolutely have to sleep in the same room, I don't see why you would have to sleep in the same room. I would look at what are the options so that you guys can get your sleep? Because if you take this fan issue off just both of you need your sleep. The fan is an issue. I mean, for some people it's snoring. For some people it's tossing and turning. But the relationship deal killer for me would be, not relationship, but that, sleep is the issue here. It's so important. How do you manage for you both to get the sleep that you need? And so you hate the fan, he has to have it. But no, it doesn't have to be a relationship deal killer. But look at how can we resolve this? Can you have that fan, you know, off of you, but on him? I hope that's making sense. Let me see if you comment anymore. Okay. Charlene, let's see. You said boundary question. How common is it for the AS or autistic spouse to involve an adult child in the marriage by virtue of using his or her home as a place to decompress when overwhelmed internally, rather than using the private space provided in the marital home? Okay, let me read that again. So, how common is it for the AS spouse to involve an adult child in the marriage by virtue of using his or her home as a place to decompress when overwhelmed internally rather than using the private space? But okay. Well, okay, how common is it? That's really not, I can't really say how common is it, but is it common for people to leave their home and go to another location? Yes. I guess the question I would have, you're saying they're involving the adult child, would be how much are they actually involving the adult child in what's going on? So if they're needing additional physical space, so I'm hearing that there's a marital home, there's a private space in the marital home that's designated as a space to go and get away from the marriage. But then he's going away to an adult child's house. And so that in and of itself is not necessarily a boundary violation unless the adult child is then being involved in conversations about why I'm here and here's what's going on with your mom or your stepmom or and she's being a bad word name and that would truly be a boundary violation. Um, but some adult children are able to say, you know what, it's here. It depends on the nature of the relationship, is what I'm saying. The nature of the relationship with the adult child, and also the nature of your relationship with the adult child. And if that adult child is somebody who likes to get involved and likes to get in the middle of things and wants to play mediator or wants to stir up problems or take sides, then that's a problem. That's problematic. But if this is a mature individual who's like, you know what, your business is your business. There's a bedroom here, use it as you need to. It's between the two of you. I won't ask questions. that's not as problematic. So it really just depends on the relationship. That's a good question. You said, Charlene says, and once it's done once or twice, how would you advise handling this situation respectfully, so that boundaries are not crossed? Again, I just go back to it's about the actual relationship with this individual. And, how often is this happening? Is this happening, once every few years, once or twice a year, once or twice a month, once or twice a week? If it's becoming a pattern that he's starting to leave regularly, then I'd say this is less about boundaries and more about something more about the relationship. I would want to look more at what's happening in the relationship and why is this retreat, this withdrawal happening? What's going on in the relationship? Unless this adult child is indeed crossing boundaries and getting in the middle and pulling him out. Is this adult child a stepchild who's wanting, who's getting involved in an inappropriate way? There's so many family dynamics that could be influencing this that I'm not really aware of. So, all right, you guys. So that hour went by fast. I'm going to recap for those of you who weren't here at the beginning. So this is my last live Q&A. And so what we're doing from this point forward, we will still be, oh, you're welcome, Charlene. We will still be airing a video cast that is a Q&A at this time slot, but I'm not going to be here live. So what I want you to do is to continue sending your questions to support. And I'm going to put the support email address here in the chat. But if any of you want to actually be featured on a video cast, and this is also going to be a podcast, we're launching a podcast here in 2022, then I want you I'm going to put the link here again. I want you to book a call with me and get on Zoom and talk to me for real. And so we'll talk for about 15 minutes about your situation. It'll be an audio recording, not a video. You won't be on video. And we'll talk, and then we'll feature our conversation, and it'll be edited so that we've got an editing team. It will be edited, and we will feature that on a video cast. And it maybe I'll have one or two of you, or I don't know. This is brand new, and I'm excited about it. So if any of you, that link is live. You can book anytime if you're interested. But again, I want to just reiterate, this is not just a 15-minute free coaching session. If you do book this link, then you are consenting to be on the video cast. So, but you can also send your questions in to me at the support address and talk to me in our community. You guys, the new community, go join if you haven't already. Just go to spectrum-relationships.com. And click community, and you can come on over. That's also where we announce any upcoming events, which, by the way, I've got a Valentine's webinar coming up for you guys. And I'm doing it a little bit differently than the holiday webinar that we had, where you only had 4 dates to choose from. This is going to be more of a, you're going to have more opportunities. I'm not going to do a live Q&A, which that just made it a little harder for me to be available. So I'm just going to have the webinar done for you. You can book the time of your choice. Trying to get you guys set up and ready for Valentine's Day so that you don't have that disappointment and heartbreak that a lot of you have experienced in the past. And we're going to talk a lot about expectations and difference in definitions and gifts and what does Valentine's mean. So it's going to be a really great webinar. If you attended my holiday webinar, you saw that it was most everybody who attended the holiday webinar stayed on the whole thing, all 45 minutes. Nobody left before it was over. So I knew it was good, and you got a lot from it. So this one's going to be similar. So keeping it, if you join the community, that's where we make sure you'll get all the announcements. And of course, if you're on my email list, you'll get emails from me. I apologize if I'm blowing up your email, but all right, it's been great. And I may still pop on here live occasionally. You never know. I like talking to you guys, but I hope to talk to some of you in real life on Zoom. So I look forward to seeing some people booking with me soon and talking to you guys in the community. And Happy New Year, everybody. And we'll be seeing you soon. Bye, you guys.